Hello, everyone, and welcome to ET Travel World's virtual summit on changing the face of travel. I'm Homa Mistry. I'm the CEO of TBI Trailblazer Tours, and I will be your moderator this afternoon. Friends, I am really fortunate that I've been given this opportunity to moderate such an important session today. And the session is being called Atmanirbhar Leveraging Domestic Tourism. We have a great panel over here, creme de la creme. We have policy makers today who are going to shape the way domestic tourism is going to move forward in India. Thanks to pandemic, uh, new policies are being framed. So let me first introduce my panel to you. I have Mr. Sachin Ramachandran Jadhav as the Director Tourism, Government of Odisha. Welcome, sir. Nikhil Desai, he is the MD of Goa Tourism. Welcome, Nikhil. We look forward to the session with you. Mr. Bimal K. Datta, he is the member from Northeastern Council. Everybody is looking at the Northeast, and we look forward to your comments, sir. And we have my very own friend and colleague, Anil K. Rajput. He is the Joint Secretary of ADTUI, Association of the Domestic Tour Operators of India. Friends, uh, topic domestic tourism has been taken up by none other than the Prime Minister of our country, Mr. Narendra Modi. The moment pandemic set in, the moment Corona 19 happened, the first call that he gave to all of us was Atmanirbhar Bharat. And Atmanirbhar not just for tourism, but for the overall economic condition of our country. And then later on, in somewhere in May, with the chief minister's meeting, our prime minister again, on a very important note, requested all the chief ministers to look at domestic tourism and to look at the positive parts of domestic tourism and to say how we can make it a great economic engine within India. Having that in mind, today's meeting is very important. But the challenge in India is government of India federal, but tourism is a state subject. Tourism is a mummy papa shop the way it is run today. It is run by small entrepreneurs as tour operators who are trying to promote domestic tourism, in which the airlines and hotels play the main part. But domestic tourism in India is different. It's based a lot on religion, it's on road, and we are very thankful to Government of India. Roads are really good all over India. So there is a great opportunity in domestic tourism. Important thing is, how do we bring all the states on the same panel so that we have similar policies, similar protocols, similar taxes, and it becomes easy for people to travel from one state to another. It becomes, people do pick up their cars and travel, but domestic tourism has to be looked at in a very holistic way, and everybody has to get together and to make sure that the numbers, it gets structured very well, and it becomes a great economic motivator for our country. Having this in mind, let me start without mixing words. I'll start with Mr. Sachin, Director Tourism of Odisha. Sir, we understand that Odisha is looking at domestic tourism obviously very seriously, but there are two, three things which have been brought to the notice of everybody as to what you're doing. One of them is Odisha by road. You have launched Odisha by road and you have not left any stone unturned in promoting the same. The second major thing that we are seeing from all over in Odisha happening is the eco retreats. You all are creating eco retreats, and these are glamping camps which are coming up. But the best part that I saw about Odisha was that you're also trying to put together tourism with your neighboring states like Andhra Pradesh or Chhattisgarh. I think that's a unique idea, sir. So now I leave it to you. If you can tell us, how are you looking at domestic tourism as a state? You're also taking other states along. And what are the main key points that we should understand as to how you're looking at the growth of tourism in Odisha? Please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mistry, and my namaskar to all the panelists. And thanks for this opportunity by ET Travel World. Odisha tourism has been struggling to put together tourism for a long time. And this pandemic gave us enough breathing space to think over the paradigm all over again. and it was an opportunity in disguise. So we realized early during the lockdown phase that henceforth the travel by air and travel by rail is not only going to be limited, but it is going to take some time to recover. So it was this lockdown that prompted us to think of Odisha by road, number one. Number two, the thought behind Odisha by road was that the destinations that are already popular in Odisha, they are in a limited number, whereas Odisha has a huge potential of interior locations which are accessible by road, but not as accessible by air or rail. Those also needed to be highlighted. So Odisha by road served two twin purposes. The pandemic situation prompted the travelers to travel by road and promotion of interior locations. Now coming to the collaboration with neighboring states. Last year when we started the glamping festival, that is at Konark, it was first of its kind experiment in this part of the country on eastern coast. And that prompted us to think that whenever the tourists, domestic tourists or international tourists, they are coming to this part of the country, they do not have as many attractions as the Western India has to offer. So suppose, for example, foreign tourists, they come to the so-called Golden Triangle of India, and they are mostly limited to either the states like Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra, and even southwards at Kerala, or the locality near Delhi. And some of them, they hop onwards to Odisha. Specifically for Odisha, very few foreign travelers come. They do come, but they are very few in number. So that prompted us to think of collaboration with other states. So any foreign, maybe foreign tourists or domestic tourists, he is coming to the other states. And there are Odia travelers also. See, the demographical structure of Odisha, if you see, tourism sector is all about HNIs. It is a leisure industry associated with luxury. And Odisha's demography, if you see, there are sizable number of HNIs in Odisha also because of the mining industry, steel industry. So there is concentration of wealth in few hands. That is the typical feature of Odisha's economy. And the large population of Odisha is either lower middle class or lower class. So the tourism, if you want to cash in on tourism and if you want to realize the real worth of tourism in terms of GDP growth and employment growth, we needed to focus on HNIs. And it was this thought that prompted us to go for number one, Odisha by road through own vehicles or hired vehicles, glamping, that is luxurious accommodations, and cooperation with neighboring states. This will together bring us the real target of HNIs to this particular state, and that will prompt the growth of tourism in Odisha. As you have rightly prompted out during the beginning of the moderation session, that this is a mummy papa industry. Tourism is a mummy papa industry. We want to change this paradigm. It should not remain limited to mummy papa industry. That is also a necessity in this sector because it's not only HNIs or the upper class people who are touring. There are many low income groups which also are in need of tourism and they also need to be catered to. But definitely the upper echelons, the HNI sector, that needs to be focused as far as Odisha is concerned. See, for example, we are seeing the example of Goa and Kerala. They have cashed in on these things and they have gone far ahead. So we also don't want to be left behind. And it is these thoughts that have prompted us to move on this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for explaining this. I will come back to you. But now let me go to Mr. Nikhil Desai of Goa Tourism. Goa, well, what do I say? When we travel all over the world, everybody knows about Goa. Sometimes they don't even connect it with India. So Goa is sold so much that they don't say I'm going to India, they say I'm going to Goa. Internationally, Goa has been sold as a beach destination. It's a great charter destination. And to the extent, some statistics also says that % of the population in some way or the other are connected with tourism. So when it comes to tourism in Goa, there's very little I can say. We all know the culture of people, how they treat tourists is what matters. And why do domestic or international tourists go there again and again as repeat clients is because of the overall culture and the warmth that they get in Goa. But with this pandemic coming in, Goa has been seen as an international charter destination. Although internally we know that summer was domestic and winters was international. But with this unique change, how is Goa? I know that Goa has also come up with a new Goa tourism policy. But what is the plan that Goa is going to do in order to encourage domestic tourists in a structured way year round? So we would like to know from you, sir, please.
Good afternoon, my fellow panelists, and thank you for this opportunity. Well, as we all know that this year has come as a tremendous disappointment, especially for states like Goa, which bank heavily upon international tourist arrivals. And as we all know, almost 98% of the charter tourists that come into this country land in Goa. Having said that, we were expecting certain positive tailwinds for this particular industry, but who would have imagined when this first pandemic broke out in March that we would be still in this phase of uncertainty wherein we wouldn't know definitely when things would come back to normal in its entirety. But having said that, I guess this is the case all across the country, all across the continent, all across the globe, and we have to live with it. But fortunately, saddled with the fact that we have an excellent domestic market, Goa has got a lot of repeat visitors. In fact, 40% of our guests who come to the state are indeed repeat visitors, especially from the domestic tourism category. What we have been observing is no sooner the state opened its door for tourism in the state. We were one of the first states to do so. Our hotels were open, now the casinos are open. Almost the entire spectrum of the tourism industry is open, barring a few interventions or few services here and there. No sooner we opened up, initially after a bit of a struggle, we realized that people took to Goa like fish to water, and that saw a tremendous increase in the occupancies. But most of the occupancy that we see of late is, especially during the weekends, we still do have a challenge during the weekdays, especially from Mondays to Thursdays are indeed a challenge where we see almost 50% drop in occupancies. But with the revival in wedding season, with revival in smaller conferences, which Goa was already popular, and plus coupled with the fact that we are India's one of premier domestic tourism and beach destination, we saw a lot of drive-in tourists coming in from especially the neighboring states of Maharashtra, Karnataka, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, even and the nearby states. Whereas the flights that started coming to Goa, I'm very happy to mention that we have achieved almost close to 70% of the pre-COVID levels arrivals, and the passenger load factor in all the flights are 90% plus. So that speaks that people were indeed waiting for to get their wings back, and no sooner they got to travel, probably Goa did become one of their first places of choice. And why not? Because there's so much that Goa has to offer. Apart from the beach destination, the state government is focusing on exposing our beautiful hinterlands to the tourists. We have excellent backwaters which were never looked into. But a new tourism policy which has been approved by the cabinet 1.5 months back has taken care of all these factors. We are betting very high on adventure tourism, wedding tourism. Of course, we were market leaders and we are further looking forward to consolidate our hold there. Hinterland tourism, heritage and cultural tourism is extremely high on our agenda. We have focused in the last 7 to 8 months, of course, despite a lot of bottlenecks that we had to face because of non-availability of labor. We have been focusing our time on completion of the tourism infrastructure projects, because as we all know, world-class tourism infrastructure is extremely essential for the state to grow in a very sustainable manner. And towards it end, we got a lot of support from the Union Tourism Ministry through its Swadesh Darshan scheme, which helped us to put in place the requisite infrastructure. Plus, the state government has also been chipping in its funds. The other state governments have been primed to complete all the ongoing projects, especially the road and connectivity projects. Mopa Airport work is also in full swing, which will further boost international as well as domestic connectivity in the days to come. So I think we are sitting on a very, very optimistic platform. Yet there are immediate short-term and medium-term challenges that the government is looking into, and no sooner we have the vaccines in place and all the necessary protocols by which the pandemic could be kept substantially under control, and that is the day that every single stakeholder in this industry is looking forward to, and it is no different here in Goa. In Goa, the advantage that we had initially was that we managed the pandemic extremely well. till about June, we only had about 7 cases of the disease. And of course, when the borders finally opened up, then we had certain more cases. But I'm very happy to tell you that we are one of the very safest destination. The hospitality industry in the state has set very high standards for themselves. The government is also very, very serious in enforcing all the COVID measures like wearing of mask, social distancing, and others. We have also exhorted all our stakeholders to do so in their own safety as well as safety of the guests. So most of the stakeholders have been pushing forward this particular mechanism which already exists. And I'm sure all of us would agree that in the immediate future, we will all have to abide by these protocols in order to make ourselves safe and others safe as well. So given all these factors, and there was already a very strong pull factor about Goa, the domestic tourism industry is indeed a silver lining on otherwise dark cloud. And that is what is keeping the entire industry afloat, because as we know, Goa is heavily dependent on tourism as an industry. Almost 1/3 of our population directly, indirectly depends on tourism as a source of livelihood. And we were indeed extremely worried when this pandemic hit, because hospitality industry has been one of the worst hit all across the world. And it's no different in Goa as well. But slowly but surely, we are turning the corner. And we are really buoyed by the arrivals, especially the domestic arrivals in the and in this particular 18 to 40 age group category, which we see are now traveling a lot. We are yet to see large movement from senior citizens. They were of course, our very valued guests, but for obvious reasons, they are preferring not to travel. And most of the travel is now driven by the 18 to 40 category travelers, especially the youngsters who also like to indulge themselves in various adventure activities, various new tourism services, the hop-on hop-off bus services, the various water sports activities, the electric bicycle tours, the bungee jumping, and all other adventure activities that we have put together in active association with the private sector. As the season progresses, we are hoping to add some more facilities like the heritage boat cruises, which will showcase the entire art and culture of the state as you cruise down the river Mandovi. We also tied up with Pavanhans to start the heli tourism tours in North Goa. We are also hoping to revive the seaplane services and all other adventure activities that have been planned for this particular industry. So I'm sure that people will find many more reasons to travel to Goa. Already the services that we had launched like hot air balloon, etc., are doing great. And we expect a lot of positive response from all our wonderful domestic travelers in the days to come.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Very, very positively put. Thank you very much. Now, may I request a great environmental science person, academician, Professor Datta. If you can tell us something about Northeast. Northeast is like heaven. The outdoors of Northeast, spectacular. But the tourism into Northeast is not there due to infrastructure issues. But we would look forward to understand from you as to how, when we are talking of Atmanirbhar Bharat, what is it that Northeast is planning to do? Professor, all yours.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this session. I am in the Northeastern Council, and we don't directly deal with the tourism sector actually, but indirectly we are interacting with the tourism Northeastern states. As you know, we have 7 Northeastern states now, including Sikkim, 8. And all these Northeastern states are known tourist destinations. But because of the pandemic in the recent past, tourism has suffered very badly. In Northeast India, you can think of the rapid increasing tourists in the Northeast. But I think what we should be doing in the near future, that we formulate some policies by sort of ecotourism in the Northeastern states, and which can also contribute to enhance the livelihood of the local people or the communities. Because as you can appreciate, all these Northeastern states, other than Assam and Sikkim, are dominated by the local tribals, and where perhaps we can think of the ecotourism, and where homestays will be encouraged, and by doing that, perhaps we will be able to contribute to the economy of the people in the Northeast, especially the rural people who are economically not very sound. Now, when you talk about, we have just now heard about Goa. Now, the Northeast is not known national or global tourism sector as a very well-known destination, but it is gradually sort of increasing, and people have started coming and they have started knowing the place. Now, earlier this place was only connected by trains. Some of the states were not even connected by train. Like if you take Arunachal Pradesh, now it has been connected by train. And of course, the flights from parts of the country comes to Guwahati, Agartala, Aizawl, Impal, and in the recent past, we have started connecting Shillong as well. And in a couple of years now, back now, Sikkim has also been connected by flight. But Sikkim has one advantage, like this Bagdogra airport is not very far, and it is within the connectivity condition, and people are coming when a large number of tourists are coming to Sikkim to see the scenic beauty as well as all the tourist destinations and religious tourist destinations of the kind. And in Meghalaya, if you take, I will say certain of the things, like Meghalaya is known for the largest cave systems. There are three of them, in fact, are very well known. And Sora, Cherrapunji, and Mawsynram, they are known as the highest rainfall area in the world. And they are also attracts a large number of tourists. And we have got in Jaintia Hills of Meghalaya, Northyang, where the cluster of monoliths are there, which are, again, very, very important as far as the, kind of a tourist destination. There is a Shakti Peeth in the Durga Temple in the Jaintia Hills. Shillong is also known as the Scotland of the East, and it attracts a large number of tourists in the recent past. Now Shillong has been by air, and perhaps we will be having more tourists bypassing Guwahati and any other destination in the northeast. We have a Bangladesh border called Dauki. From there, large number of tourists from Bangladesh, they visit northeastern region, and the gateway is the Dauki, that is the Bangladesh border. Shillong also attracts, many other ways. They have a very good music choir and others, and there are many, tourist destinations. There are homestays where people can come, stay, enjoy, and go back, having a very good memory of this area. Now we have Assam is one of the largest states of the northeastern states, and where we have got large number of historical places of the bygone years. The capital of Ahom kings ruled this state some years back, and they have, they had created a number of historical and religious places, like Gorgaon Place, Palatal, Muktanath, Sipsagar, Devdul, and Haragori Dul, Gori Ballabh Dul, Ranghar, Namdang Stone Bridge. All these areas are visited by the tourists who come to Northeast, especially those who come to Assam in particular for visiting the areas, ecotourism areas like Kaziranga and Dibru-Soikwa near Dibrugarh by the Brahmaputra, where large number of animals are available in wild and people can watch and enjoy. The Gangetic dolphin, which are also there in the river Brahmaputra and river Barak, that is also an unique tourist attraction of this region. We take the other areas. As I said, I am not really directly involved in tourism, But we, NEC as a organization takes interest in tourism. And in the recent past, there are places like, a bridge has been constructed in Assam called Bogibeel Bridge, which is connecting Assam to, the Arunachal Pradesh. To that, large number of tourists have started moving, and we have what I was referring to, that wildlife sanctuary near Dibru-Saikwa, where there is a bird sanctuary called Maguribil, is situated by the river, and a large number of tourists visit that area because it is also a birding site, and large number of birds flock in the areas called Maguribil. Some accommodations are also available of national and international standard in there. So large number of foreign tourists really travel and come to visit that Maguribil area, and they stay and watch the birds and go back happily. There are about homestays for the people. About 50 people can stay. The students from universities and colleges of different parts of the country, they come, visit, and stay there for the night, and or a couple of days, including some night stay, and they are able to enjoy the what you call wildlife of the neighboring area, that is Dibru-Saikwa. Now there are other bridges have come up again connecting Arunachal, because connectivity used to be the main problem in the northeastern states. If you take Aizawl, and the capital of Mizoram, it's very, very difficult to reach. Long way you have to go by road, and the road at places is not in order, and that is another problem. If you think of Manipur, Imphal, the only connectivity, those who can afford to go by air, and they can only visit, because again, the road connectivity is terribly bad. If you think of the places, as I said, there is a new connecting bridge in Bhupen Hazarika, Bhupen Setu of Assam, the Bhupen Hazarika, the famous singer of Assam. In his name, there is a connecting bridge from Assam to Arunachal Pradesh, and by that, many are able to now to go to Arunachal Pradesh. There are a lot of religious sites like Parshuram Kund. There is a golden pagoda. Those areas are visited by the tourists, the religious tourists, and otherwise they visit. The connecting bridge I was referring to, that Bogibeel Bridge, also connects, what we call Arunachal Pradesh, and while connecting Arunachal Pradesh, this passes, part of Assam, and when passing Assam, they also visit a place called Malinithan, which is also known as, the in old days, they say that Krishna got married in this Malinithan, which is also known to be a religious spot, and many tourists visit this area. I would like to say that the northeastern states are kind of a lot of things are there to be seen, but perhaps the publicity is not there from our states, as well as perhaps the tourism sector. Perhaps in the recent past, we have started interacting with the states tourism departments, and we are trying to promote tourism in Northeast. And perhaps after the pandemic comes under control, we will be able to, get more tourists. And I take this opportunity to thank you for inviting me to interacting with you all. But I must confess that NEC doesn't deal with tourism directly, but indirectly we are involved with tourism, and we will try to do our best.
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving us such a detailed note on Northeast. With the pandemic and the way people are looking at traveling, a lot of people want to travel as individuals and are looking at natural beauty. So I am sure there'll be a lot of demand which is going to come to Northeast. It is only that all these beautiful things that you've told us, we need to know how the marketing is going to take place so that others within the country come to know about this beautiful place. Having said that, I do not think that Kerala Tourism has joined us as yes. So now I would like to go to Mr. Anil Rajput. Rajput, sir, is the Joint Secretary of ADTOI, and ADTOI is the Domestic Tourism Association. Sir, ऐसा opportunity फिर नहीं मिलेगा. You have all the policymakers over here. Please let us know on the Domestic Tourism Association, what is it that you're looking for? What is it that during this period, if it happens, it is really going to help domestic tourism boost as well as the industry to go forward? All yours.
I am also a chairman committee research and development of new tourist destinations. And that is the reason, I am more involved with all the states finding out new places. So now, let me start with the statement of our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now, Atmanirbhar Bharat is a very good statement. But believe me, our tourism industry is always, right from the beginning, it is Atmanirbhar. We were never dependent on anything except for the road structures, be it hotels, be it small guest house, the transporters, anything you name it. It is all, the private players who have played a major role. And that's why we have been Atmanirbhar from the beginning. Now, if you see the tourism, the domestic tourism, till 25 years ago, no one recognized the Indian tourist as a tourist. They were thinking that these people are in small numbers, or they don't spend much of money, or they don't have much of liking for traveling places. Now, let me give you the example of Goa. Till 20 years ago, it was just 4 to 5 months business. And thanks to the domestic tourists, they have made it year-round tourist destination. We have a very big number. You know how many tourists, the Indian tourists that travel within India is more than the population of India. Is more than the population of India, the tourists travel within India, be it a religious tourism, be it leisure tourism, be it adventure activity, anything. Imagine the marriages. Earlier, it used to be in the small gatherings near the house. Maybe what tent wallas used to have those tent erected in the gully or in the open field. Now these marriages are happening in the big resorts and the hotels. So that is a big market. Who is creating that? It's a domestic tourist. Yes, the foreigners do come. But imagine what happened to the foreigners. We have experienced the SARS. We have experienced the chikungunya. We have experienced so many things. Even there were advisories from the various governments when something, some bomb blast or something happens, and the advisories were issued not to travel to India. And who was holding the fort? Who was helping the tourism industry? The Indians, the domestic tourists. They were traveling. And believe me, you know, the Indian tourists have a habit. Even if there is a bomb blast in a place or in an earthquake, they want to go and see and watch that place. Arey, kya hua, kya jara dekhe to sahi wahin jaake. And it's the tourism. Now, the pandemic has come as a big shock. It's a big shock because earlier, whatever happened in our generation, we never saw such type of pandemic. It was a shock. It has changed the lifestyle of people. It has changed the thinking of people. It has changed the business values, the business modules. Many things have been changed during this pandemic. Believe me, the tourism has started. It will never stop. Tourism will be there. But the modules are going to change. Modules today, I'm dealing with my people, a transporter or a vendor. I'm not sure after this pandemic is over or when the business will start, whether he will be trustworthy financial wise or not. Even the same thing will happen with those people. If I'm giving them business, they will also think that I am, if they are sure about my financial worthiness. So this what this pandemic has created. So there are going to be a lot of changes. There are going to be a lot of new players. There are going to be a lot of guidelines from the government that this pandemic is taken care of. The mindset of a tourist, the mindset of a tourist, not tourism is there. Now, recently, what we have observed is people are traveling nearby places, the Aas-Paas ka tourism. They are not traveling long distances. They're traveling in their own vehicles, 4 to 5, 6 hours journey, and they're spending their weekends or maybe some holidays. Now, what I see, the business module which has changed, the work from home, this is going to be a big opportunity for the tourism industry. The big business houses, they are giving the staff the opportunity to work from home. They can work from anywhere. So what the opportunity will be, the resorts and the hotels, they have a good broadband connectivity. They have the 24 hours electricity. They have a big place, safe place. The staff would like to come and enjoy there. They will stay there. They will have a holiday, a work holiday, you can say. So this type of activity will increase. Health tourism, wellness tourism will increase. You will find a lot of people after this pandemic, they are going to have the medical advices, physical as well as mental health advices. I'm sure Kerala will take a lead in this. Kerala tourism, then other, I am not sure what are the other places who are going to be having the facilities in their resorts or other places about the medical facilities or the wellness activities. The tourists are going to demand the larger places. Larger places means the open space where a social distancing is maintained, their family is safe, they can have a good time together. The food habits are going to change. There are going to be a lot of changes in the food habit, like they want to be sure that it is not going to harm their health. So these things are going to affect the tourism industry. One more thing, the transport, the tourism transport. People will avoid the shared transport service. They will have maybe a family traveling 8 people. Earlier, they used to travel maybe in a 40-seater bus or a 50-seater bus. But now they will prefer the smaller bus or the tourist vehicle where their only family members are there. No one from outside is with them. So these type of things are going to happen. Religious tourism will be there. Religious tourism will be again, there will be no effect on that. Religious tourism will increase. Wellness tourism will increase. Yes, the tourism which is going to be affected, the tourism in the cities. Cities means like the metro cities where the hotels are in a compact place, not in an open space. So those places we are expecting that they are going to be in a less demand, but resorts and the hotels with a larger space, open space, and strict hygienic protocols will do good business. The brand value will also make a big impact because the brand values will have their own standards, hygiene standards. That is going to make a big difference. So big names, the brands will do good business. Now, the Indian tourist, normally they expect their budget hotels like 3,500 to 6,000 rupees average they go for these type of hotels. So demand is going to increase, and I'm expecting the bigger properties who were earlier enjoying the price tag of more than 6,000, 7,000, they will also come down. So there may be some compromise on the giveaways like earlier we used to have from the star properties, because they will have to be cost conscious on that. So these things are going to affect, these things are going to be there. Tourism will not stop. Tourism is Atmanirbhar. We will always be Atmanirbhar. And believe me, tourism will bounce back. And the travel agents, definitely, we have no investment. So we have not lost anything. In fact, we have lost the business, we have lost the earnings, but we have not lost our capital. So our capital is our business, which we are getting day by day. So let us hope for the best. We are searching for new places. We are open for new places. People will travel, and tourism will flourish again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Everybody had an opportunity to say what their state is offering. My question, frankly, is different. Domestic tourism, we are saying on one hand, it is a mummy papa shop. How is anyone thinking out of the box of how to make it into a huge money spinner, into domestic tourism? Just now, Japan had domestic tourists and every monument, every train was full. It is because their domestic tourism is very strong. So Nikhil sir, are you thinking anything out of the box? Is there an opportunity that you see that while you are on this position, you will be able to make such a change which will benefit the industry? For example, many years ago, if you take domestic tourists, it's like the Amul dairy, where everybody had 2 liters of milk and they were selling it and they were Atmanirbhar. But somebody, Mr. Korean, brought them all together and made it into a corporation. And then there was nothing looking back. Someone thinking on those lines will be a huge change, because it is fragmented. We need y'all on the top to bring it together, be it with trainings. Do you think a thought like this is possible? And do you think Goa is looking at something out of the box, especially for domestic tourism?
Well, that's a very good question. And in the last few months of our deliberation, we have been thinking, how do we reinvent Goa? And as Anilji has rightly put it, as per the WTTC analysis, the size of domestic travel in the country is estimated to be about 1.4 billion visitors annually. Compare that with what we have for the global industry, where they estimate an tourist flow of about 1.1 billion, which means if we have 1.1 billion international visitors across the world, and within the country there are close to about 1.4 billion, I mean, that is a 1.4 billion person opportunity for this whole country. And it'll all depend on how the states can take the maximum benefit out of this. So every state will have to put its best foot forward. Like what we have been doing in Goa is we first and foremost decided that last year there were close to about 2 crore or 20 million Indian visitors who visited outside, who went outside the country for tourism purpose. Now in our analysis, we realized that these are the same people who take minimum 1 vacation in a year and they have this overseas visit. Now they are the ones who would be what we call it, not be able to travel because of all the related challenges. And these are the people who probably would have Goa in their top 2 or 3 wish lists. And why not Goa? Because what we realized is that Goa offers everything, all the services, all the best of products, ultra luxury holiday stays, right from backpacker to ultra luxury holiday stays. We have a plethora of adventure tourism activities. There's plenty of activities one can do in the hinterland. We have got excellent centers of excellence as far as wellness is concerned. We are doing very well in small mice and other events, which of course again are a challenge. Weddings, we were already doing well. So there's no facet of the tourism pie that is untouched within Goa. So I think one of the reasons why we could really bounce so strongly in the post-pandemic situation was that Goa has got so much more to offer. Within a short, because we from north to south, we are just 100 kilometers, and from east to west, we are just 60 kilometers. So the state is just half the size of a normal district of any large district of the country. So coupled with the fact that we are very well connected, value proposition for visitors who visit Goa during this time, because the rates are very competitive. In addition, almost all the services are active. So that gave Goa really a big advantage, and we had a lot of interest coming in from drive-ins, etc. So we are looking forward to tapping the tourism pie. Even when we were strong in foreign tourism arrivals, we realized that though Indian traveler stays, his average stay is about 4 to 5 days, whereas a foreigner in Goa, his average stays is between 9 to 12 days. So the average duration for a foreigner may be more, but what we realize is the average spent by a domestic tourist is much more than what a foreigner would do, an average foreign tourist would spend. So with that, I think a lot of people are looking at Goa very positively. First of all, we have gone out of the way to ensure that the pandemic is kept under control. So we never saw any situation wherein the numbers were beyond control. At some point of time, we did touch very high numbers of about 600-700 cases a day. But then today we are down to about 100, 125, 130 cases a day. So we are definitely on top of the situation, and we are looking forward to consolidate it even more. So what are we going to do to attract the tourists? We are further going to consolidate our hold on the adventure tourism activities, again with a focus on those activities which can be done even by a person without any special training or needs. Now, for example, if you were to do one of the world's safest bungee jumping, which are the places that you would visit in the country? Maybe 3 or 4 places which are famous for that. Which are the places you would visit for a hot air balloon activity? Which are the places you would visit for a scuba diving activity, the heritage boat cruise activity, the houseboat activity, the electric bicycle activities, the trekking? So many activities to do, and they are all through Goa Tourism and our collaboration with our private partners, we have done that. So with all these activities within a short span, within a small geographical impact, within a small geographical area, makes it a complete value proposition for somebody who would otherwise have to travel great distances to put these things off their bucket list. So we have offered that in Goa. Apart from that, the infrastructure, as I said, the state government has been emphasizing very strongly on infrastructure, because we see how our tourist places, especially the important ones which are overflowing with tourists, they just crumble when the numbers go beyond a particular point. So we realize that during this time, when the numbers are low, it is time for us to step on the gas, invest in infrastructure, because all throughout, economists all over the country would definitely agree that we are veering to a consensus wherein the government has to spend its way out of the crisis. So the government can spend by investing more in infrastructure. And this has always been the demand from the industry associations as well as the local stakeholders, that we need world-class infrastructure. So we are focusing on infrastructure. As I speak to you, we are developing a mini convention center, about 1,500-seater capacity. There's a plan for a 5,000-seater convention city in Dona Paula in North Goa. The Mopa International Airport work is in full swing. We're expecting the first flight to land in December of 2021. The railway expansion tracks are going on in full swing. We are having increased electrification and increased power consumption. So we're improving the infrastructure as well. So all this will bode well for the state in the years to come. The state government has not been wondering what next to do, but we have illustrated and demonstrated by action, despite the fact that all the state governments have been facing tremendous challenges as far as its fiscal situation is concerned. But despite that, with the help of central government and with the contribution to the state government, we have decided that the building of a world-class infrastructure is going to benefit the state for a very long time to come, and the time to do it is now. We also have a master plan in place for the next 25 years, wherein a lot of emphasis is going to be laid down on Atmanirbhar or domestic tourism that is going to feed the inventory that Goa is catering to offer. Also, one good thing that is coming out is that a lot of good investment is flowing in the states, and that is resulting in getting in better hospitality products, excellent world-class chains which are trying to come into Goa in the field of hospitality. All that, I'm sure, will make Goa, we already are a 365-day destination, but yet we do have certain challenges, especially during the monsoon months, where the occupancies do hover around 55-60%. There is scope to further increase it, like how we do have it in the off season as well. So Apart from this, there is more emphasis on the waterways of the state that we have to offer. So waterways are also being looked into through various schemes like Sagarmala, etc., in which we hope to develop a great infrastructure in water as well. Plus, we are looking forward to launch of one of India's biggest cultural tourism product, that is, we are now renovating a very important place which played a very important role in the liberation struggle of Goa from the Portuguese. That is, I'm talking about the erstwhile old Aguada jail complex, which is now being renovated through help from the tourism ministry under Swadesh Darshan scheme, and we are likely to launch it in January of 2021. So with this, it will become a very important place to attract art lovers, heritage lovers. We are going to depict the history of Goa's liberation struggle, and that's a very beautiful vantage point on the banks of Mandovi River, where this place facility is going to come up, and it's almost ready. It will be modeled on the lines of cellular jail of Andaman. So all these products, I'm sure, will make Goa. The whole idea is to reinvent Goa. The geographical boundaries of Goa obviously cannot be altered, but what we can alter is shining some light on those places, especially Mayam Lake, where we are going to have a full-fledged theme park. We have a place in Salaulim in South Goa where we're developing a beautiful botanical garden as well as a resort with a wellness facility that is attached to it. So these are the places which people might never have heard about Goa. But these places are equally beautiful, excellent places, which one would be mesmerized by the beauty that these places have to offer. So slowly but surely, we want to take tourism to the hinterland. By this, we are not only helping the stakeholders in the hinterland, but also offering much more options to the domestic tourists to come and extend their stays, explore all these activities, do all these activities, tick them off their bucket list, and yet explore the verdant interiors of the state. That is going to be our strategy in the immediate foreseeable future. Of course, domestic as well as foreign tourism is going to be very important for us. We do have a strategy for improving the foreign tourist arrivals, but that's a story for some other day. But I think we all have reconciled to the fact that till May of 2021, our mainstay is going to be domestic tourism, and we are going to go and walk that extra mile and pull out all stops to ensure that we get sustainable flows of domestic tourists into the state.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Goa, we all know, is a lovely destination, but with the kind of passion that you are showing and with the enthusiasm and interest, I am sure there'll be many, many better, projects which will come up in Goa, and you will achieve all of them. Thank you very much for giving us the short term as well as the long term view of how you're looking at Goa. It is also important that the new tourist is looking at flexibility, because you mentioned just now that international tourist is what you're looking at. Today, many insurance companies have come up. So when you travel insurance and when you travel overseas, you buy a small insurance for that number of days, and your airline and your hotel cancellations are looked at. I think it is very important that you on the helm are able to call insurance companies and work out something with them that domestically also we should be able to offer the same international standards. So that if somebody travels, there is a cancellation or there is a last minute cancellation, we are able to cater to that. And that will make our domestic tourists free, and they will definitely come forward to this. So those kind of things, if they are also added to your, insurance, incentives, various incentives that you can work so that new people come into the trade and not those who are already doing. We should see now that large corporate houses come into this business because it is a huge money spinner. It only has to be channelized in the proper way. Goa has everything going for itself. So thank you very much for your inputs.
I would just like to add, with your permission, I would like to add that we believe that the entire industry has to be strongly supported and led by the private sector, and the government only has to play the role of a facilitator. We are absolutely very clear in that. So towards that end, the new policy speaks about much bigger role for the private sector to engage themselves, and the government playing the role of a facilitator in terms of expediting the permissions, getting in the investors and hand-holding them and getting and delivering the best quality product. So as I speak to you, there are a lot of strategies in which the government will be exiting over a period of time the hospitality sector, and we will be looking forward to entering into joint ventures with reputed hospitality partners to provide a world-class experience to the guests from various parts of the world. And that is a very key statement in our tourism master plan, as well as the Goa tourism policy.
So while since you said one more point, we've just seen that Maharashtra tourism has, really given impetus to tourism and has made it into an industry, which I understand there are a lot of positives. And if each one of an MP has also done it, and if each one of you all work towards that, where genuinely more benefits come in because then it is taken as an industry, it would really help, because one has been talking about it for a number of years. But if it is done at the right time, some states have done it, and it has huge positive effects on tourism. So those parts, if they can be seen by all, on the panel, it will really be appreciated. Thank you, sir. Now I can go to Professor Datta. I can't see Professor Jadhav sir over there. You did explain that you are not directly involved with tourism.
That's right.
But indirectly you are. And what comes to your mind as to the first things that while you are there, you would like to do it for tourism, so that Northeast can also be an opportunity for us within India to come and experience. At the moment, it lacks a lot of infrastructure. So what are those things which you feel are important and should be tackled? Not just COVID, but later also.
Yeah, I think, Northeast Council is taking care of, in large areas, the connectivity of the different, 8 states.
Right.
And the air connectivity, we are supporting the airports to come up in the northeastern states. And also the road connectivity, we are doing our best. That, all the states are connected, and the visitors coming up to, Guwahati can travel by road, by air. And even, as I said, I think recently by another, I think 21st of this month, we'll have a direct connectivity of Delhi with Shillong. So, that kind of connectivity, perhaps we will be able to help with from Northeast.
I think it is very important once connectivity comes, and Northeast also does some amount of right advertisement all over to tourists within India. I am sure the right numbers will come, because at the moment you not want a rush, but the right numbers will come in. Anil Rajputji,
Yes, sir.
again I come back to you. Are there any pain areas where the association feels genuinely that you require help, as we have everybody on the panel? Anything from your side which would help the industry?
The Udan scheme was announced a few years ago. Is still lacking. Lot of efforts are required there. There are airports which are yet to be commissioned, although the licenses were given to the airlines to operate there, but they are not operational. I can give you an example of Kargil. Kargil airport, for last 2 years, they are waiting for the flights. Similarly, in Northeast, there are many small airstrips. They can be used under the Udan scheme. Then, if we go towards the Central India, there are a lot of places. One can be connected by road or by air or many places. There's one thing which we have, the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal, starting from Gujarat coastal line up to Kerala, and then from Kerala to in the Bay of Bengal up to, you can say, Calcutta. This coastline is not utilized for the cruises yet. And there is a big demand. We Indians, we are traveling abroad just to have a 3 nights, 4 nights cruise to Singapore, Malaysia, or many other countries. If these cruises can be started 3 nights, 4 nights, 5 nights, just from point to point, and maybe they can hop and go, and the islands can be used as a night halt, or maybe the coastal cities can be used as a night halt. It is going to give a boost to the tourism, a new opportunity. Second thing is the new tourist areas. The travel agents are unable to invest in research and development. So new areas are to be identified. Imagine we have cruise tourism in Assam, in river Brahmaputra. Hardly any Indian knows about that cruise. in River Brahmaputra? Foreigners know. So where we are lacking, either the cruise companies, they don't want the Indian tourists to come in, or there is some other reason. So it has to be taken care of. Then there are like if you see the small airports, the Nepal, we have a very good example. The Nepal is dependent on tourism for their economy. They have small airports and they utilize them up to the maximum. They have small Dornier aircrafts, they are operating throughout Nepal, and 10, 12 people, 20 people, they travel in that aircraft, and it is connected all over anywhere. You can travel any remote area in Nepal by using these small aircrafts. So similarly, from northeast, the up to Kashmir, Ladakh, we are still lacking on the winter tourism. Winter tourism have a big potential in India. It can be developed. We have good places, ice hockey in Ladakh, skiing in Kashmir and Ladakh. But there are many more places which can be developed, and they can be developed only when these small airfields are made operational. We are yet to use the Gangotri area. We have an airstrip, but it is not being utilized. We have a Chinyali Sod airstrip, which is not being utilized, and this area can be developed for the winter tourism. Similarly, our wildlife areas. Now, when we travel to these areas in the wildlife region, we are mostly using the gypsies, and it is disturbing a lot to the wildlife. Instead, we can use the hot air balloons. We have not yet tried this facility, which is available here in India, and it will not disturb the wildlife. You can just have a good view of the forest and flora and fauna and the wildlife. So these are many things which can be given permission. There are many times there are licenses or the permission from the Home Ministry or from Defense Ministries are required. I think if these things can be taken care of, we have a very good opportunity for new areas. And these new areas we have already identified. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think we've had a very good session. India, we can't ask for more. Tourism, everything that you can think of in tourism is available in India. Domestic tourism is huge. We need to channelize it. And I would really like to thank Economic Times Travel to take up such a wonderful topic, which is going to be a game changer in the future. Thank you, everybody, for being on this panel. And hopefully we'll meet again. Till then, all the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you, everybody.